So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit the presentation, and I'm going to show you guys Trade Ideas Pro. Then we're going to jump right into what it is that defines this top list that I was talking about and getting the transformative powers. On one note, notice again, these are Trade Ideas charts. This is the final version of them, and they are done. So we're now just doing basically some last-minute cleanup before these land into the next beta release of Trade Ideas. So there will be a really good opportunity for everybody to understand why the promos are really important right now if you want to take advantage. So as we connect to real-time data, we wanted to let you guys focus more on the actual decision-making of figuring out what to buy or sell versus trying to figure out how to set something up, how to set up something to buy or sell. I think that's been the crux of a problem that existed in financial technology for many, many years. People put these like kind of cockpit controls in front of you and say, okay, you know, here's a bunch of stocks, look at what they're doing, and try to figure out, well, what's, you know, how do you even do that? So we decided to do all of that at our data centers on the server side. We have incredible technology. I use Incredible a lot because I'm just passionate about what it is that we're doing. But we have this technology. It's very powerful because it's looking at real-time data, shaping it mathematically, and then letting you see it in a way that's easy to understand. The easiest way we do that is through these channels. And again, for the people that have it, you hopefully know that one of the best ways to utilize this information is to channel surf. Starting with pre-market. And again, before the open, you can instantly see what's gapping up or gapping down in a view area we call a top list. These top lists are the way we display list data, and they are part of the main focus of the conversation that I'm going to have with you guys today about how to set these up in a really simple visual sort of way. But these views are already done for you. So again, if you were just ready to take advantage of what already is happening, you simply go to pre-market and you'll know everything that's moving up, moving down, what the companies make, you know, their fundamentals as well as their profile, and be able to see how that interplay is happening in real time before the market opens. As soon as the market opens, the best place to turn is really, well, threefold, but I kind of go in this mode. So you can kind of see what I do. I do this every day, and this is kind of like my workflow, and I get a lot of value out of it. So I start, of course, here in the pre-market. Okay, so I see what's gapping up, and basically I just go through it and see what's happening to the stock. You know, quickly go somewhere else to check news if I need to, but just, you know, right away start viewing it. What is happening? Same thing with the gapping down. You know, see if the news is warranted. I mean, it's the kind of same kind of quick analysis anybody would make. Okay. As soon as the market opens, I am in social media land. So this window, the reason why we call it social media is because what makes Trade Ideas really cool is not only do we analyze structured real-time market data, but we also talk to unstructured data like social tweets. So we connect to social network StockTwits, which is focused on equities, and we see how many times a stock is discussed on StockTwits in real time. Baselines on this information like we do on everything else. Okay, and here we have stocks with the most unusual social up movers. So what that means is we said, okay, computer, we want to know everything that's up the most and being talked about the most on social media at the same time. And so the computer does all of that for you. And again, in this channel, it's already all set up. So you can instantly see what's being up the most. And if you scroll down, you can actually see things that are down the most too. All on social media. Okay? So our top lists are a very powerful way to right away be involved. Every stock that you want to know about, you simply double click and you can instantly see the charts. Something that we do that's really cool for the charting is as follows. First of all, now we just added the ability, if you hit control, you can scroll the chart back or forward, so you can really kind of zoom in or out with your control wheel. And the other thing that's really cool is we have what's called synchronized crosshairs. So what's cool about that is, as you see the daily, you can kind of picture, well, how did that go on the intraday? Where is that, where's that play? Look at that little, consolidation area. Would I have been able to do anything? It's a better way to visualize and to possibly, again, get some inferences. So I go to the social media channel, and again, and I'm constantly surfing back and forth. Here I'm seeing what's going on with, on the volume radar too. So not only the things that are being discussed the most on social media, like 16,000%, but now kind of inverted. And instead of talking about that, we're saying, well, resort that on what's trading the most. And here you can see that list in a different way, as well as see the 5-minute and the 30-minute time frame. So the reason I'm focusing on these lists and these columns is because we just provide information in a way that you really can't get anywhere else. And so you can glean a lot more stuff out of it quickly. But one of the best things is that without knowing, what it is that set this window up, even an average user can just quickly symbol surf and go from symbol to symbol, 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 and right away just be constantly presented with ideas that are interesting and of a certain nature that would appeal to him, depending on his style of bullish or bearish. So another very, very important window to check out all the time, because think about it this way. When you're in trade ideas, the whole market really is a way that you're competing for access to information, right? How do you process information in the most efficient way possible? Okay? And this is what we're trying to do at Trade Ideas. We're trying to help you with that by creating these views that are already done. So why would the options view be important? Okay? Well, again, we focus much less per se on what you have here, although we show you, like, well, where are there the most options contracts, right? Well, it's on the things that are always the most traded: the spiders, ETF, Apple, Russell, Qs, Bank of America, Facebook, and so on. The derivatives business out of those entities is like a business of itself that is even less speculative and more arbitrageur kind of business. But over here, because we keep statistical baselines on everything, okay, we have the ability to show you, well, where is the unusual options volume? And we have a column for it, right? It's not even anything that you have to design, okay? So here it is, and here ZAYO, Zayo Group Holdings, okay, which is at $25. And it's come down from 28 pretty significantly over here, okay? So it's had a very few contracts, but what's interesting is look at the put-call ratio, right? So most of the contracts were calls because the put-call ratio is less than 1. And you can actually, by the way, resort this, okay? So you can see, well, where was the put-call ratio where it's just calls being bought, right? And still unusual options. So you see how you can mix and match the data and sort and resort this information. So I can do it just by unusual, or I can say, okay, all these unusual sorted by where I know there's the most calls, or conversely, the most puts. Whoops. Here, I call this all puts. So that's the thing. You can see this, and this is information that otherwise would have been very hard to find. Okay? And your ability to just quickly just jump right to these data points, it is what makes Trade Ideas, such a powerful data viewing platform. Is that even if you didn't do anything else, you can simply just surf around, and just by surfing around and being able to see, notice the names will start repeating. You'll be like, okay, so obviously these huge percentage gainers are there because they're up this huge amount. But you can instantly know if they're still in play right now. Were they? Because certainly, look at this run that WPCS had from 350 to 302. I mean, this is a $3 stock, right? And there's certainly opportunities there today traded both ways. And that's the whole thing, is that you want to be able to see that. You want to be able to see when a tide like this is turning one way or the other. And that's what we're going to show you with these channels. Okay. So, again, we have a few more channels than are available anywhere else because we think it's, again, we try to keep the trends current. So there's a cybersecurity channel. You can just see all the names that are involved in cybersecurity, and that's just an info stream that's been very hot lately because of all the hacking and the break-ins. Same thing in California. For those that are here, they know that the drought has been something that's being just talked about quite seriously because California is facing it. And so here's a channel that's designed for that. All the drought stocks. Same thing with the medicinal marijuana industry. Okay, even the strategies names fit the sectors. That's custom, just on trade ideas. So the idea here, again, whether it's sectors and seeing which stock is doing the best in which particular sectors, or just, the actual volume surges themselves as they are happening, we've got the views for you. And this is all done without any kind of, without any kind of programming on your part. This is where I want to make sure that the people who are customers understand that even though these are pre-built, they're constantly being modified and worked with, and you should still be monitoring them. That we pre-built these to be functional right out of the bat. Okay? So I just highly recommend doing that. And also you realize that we use different windows for different things in a strategy. Okay? Some things are top lists where we want you to see the data in a certain way, like the ranges. Like a range is, again, something that is very important for a stock, and that's really why we kind of stay away from describing movements in the manner that you see in traditional technical analysis, where people talk about, well, where is it relative to a zero line or an RSI of this or a MACD of that. We are much more kind of literal, where we say, okay, we know what the stock's range is. Well, I want to see something that's just the range is exploding, So here's what it looks like. And the idea is that if you are able to see these stocks, this is where you find the more interesting kind of movements. Like, look at this incredible day today in this stock, GIS, General Mills. That is just delicious from a trader's point of view, a perfect consolidation area. And it kind of makes you think, too, because you get in here, but it holds, and then just runs it from 56 all the way to 57. I mean, just a beautiful, beautiful move. And the thing is that this window is, you would have been aware of it all day long as it was happening. So that's the advantage at the high level. With trade ideas, the configurations, it's all there. You can do incredible things, and I'm going to be talking to you about them. But they're already done for you by us. Okay? If you want to modify it, as we come back from some of the offers that I'm going to just tell everybody, that Scott's going to introduce, I'm going to show you again how to set things up, how to modify them, and we're going to dive into a little bit of what's under the hood, so that you can see that it was so easy to do. Okay? So right now, and again, I want to make sure that we flow this webinar, that you guys get the most value out of it. Scott, will you come in and give a quick high-level overview of the offers, and then I'll just take over and demo right after you're done.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to actually, let's talk about the way we're priced first, and then after you've done that other part of the demo, I'll give out the program.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So
Yeah, so let's look at slide 6 there. So our current, I'm going to run through what our current subscription pricing and product structure is like. So we have a starter month for $99. We make that available for those of you that want to try the product without worrying about having a recurring billing situation going on. Our most popular plan is our monthly plan, which is $75 a month, and that's a simple recurring subscription. We also have a plan that helps you save a lot of money, and that's the Advantage Player. Now, the way that plan works is an upfront payment that's larger with a low recurring monthly renewal rate. So you pay $236 to start, and then it's only $43 a month. We also offer a quarterly rate for $225, which is just a non-recurring. It just makes it easy to buy 3 months at a time. We have an annual rate of $628 per year. Now, compared to the monthly $75 per month rate, that saves 30%. If you're on the monthly at $75 a month for a year, that's $900. However, we also offer the year at a flat $628 a year to save you some money. Our odds maker is a one-time license purchase. So anyone who purchases the odds maker for $1,100 always has the odds maker whether you come or go with trade ideas. So if you go away for 6 months and then come back, you have the odds maker again. We also produce custom strategies for you according to your tolerance threshold, your risk tolerance threshold, the type of trading you like to do, whether it's intraday or swing. We offer those for $250 per strategy, and we support those for 30 days to tweak. Now, Dan, if you'll switch to slide 7, we'll be looking at a little table here that kind of illustrates how the different pricing structures can eventually save you money. So at $75 a month, over 6 months, that's $450. Once you're with us for a year, though, that becomes $900, making the yearly rate the most advantageous. Now, to show you the Advantage Player plan, how that pays off, at 1 year, it's still a little bit more than what you'd pay on the annual plan, but once you're with us for a little longer than that, the Advantage Player very clearly becomes the money saver. And something that goes along with what Dan has talked about earlier in the program, when we release charting, we're going to be increasing our basic monthly rate and our annual rate. So we'll be seeing these price structures change, and we may also be eliminating some of the options. We're always going to have monthly and annual, and so the monthly rate is going to go up to $99 a month, and the annual plan is also going to increase accordingly. The exact amount still to be determined. We will announce that prior to the release of the charting release. Here's the good news, though. Anyone that is already a Trade Ideas subscriber with any of our plans, whether it's $75 a month, the yearly, or the Advantage Player, you're grandfathered in. So you can keep that same low rate even after we increase the rates, as long as you maintain an active account. So right before we release the charting, and we'll be announcing that anywhere from days to a week from now, the rates will be going up, and it's a good time to get into them now. After Dan's presentation, to thank everyone for attending, I'm going to be giving out a promotional code that will further discount your first payment to sign up with us. I'd just like to turn you back over to Dan, and I'll help you guys out in the chat, and looking forward to some more subscribers. Thanks.
Okay, awesome, Scott. Thank you very much. Guys, thank you for taking a quick break, letting me have a sip of coffee. And let's get back to the presentation, and this is where I really, again, showcase the power, okay? So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to close some of these windows just so that, you know, it's easier for you to see what I'm doing and you're not distracted. So remember in my slide I had the transformation of David Banner into the Incredible Hulk. So transformation is that how do you transform an idea? Like you have this concept or an idea, and how do you make it into something that might be a strategy? It's a very interesting topic, and there's actually been books written about it. But we break it down into something simple, and I want to kind of tell it to you in a story that happened to me today as I was helping a customer. So, and this happens so often that I thought it was very important for new subscribers, old subscribers, good traders, bad traders, because everybody here has done it, and I loved hearing it, and I thought it should remind everybody of the name of the game. So somebody sent us a message, and they said, hey, I'm a fairly new trader. I've been watching a window, and by the way, if you're in this webinar, take credit. It was a great question. And someone said, I was watching this window that you have in the Advanced Trader channel, which is one of the channels, and I'll show it towards the end. He said, I saw these turbo breaks that you have, which is a window that was designed by the Director of Education, Jamie Hodge, who was probably the longest acting professional trader out of all of us for over like 25 years. And Jamie designed this kind of in his style where you're seeing like a big move on high relative volume. That was a very popular style of trading, and it still is, if you can catch the right move. But the gentleman said, hey, the information happened, and the move had already taken place. When I'm seeing these turbo breaks, they're already, they've already moved. How do I see them before they move? I was like, I had such a big smile on my face. I loved it because, everybody has that thought. It's like, oh man, I saw this move up. All right, I want to catch that move before it starts. But the problem is, the computer doesn't have a sense of humor about it. You ask a computer to show you a move that's moving up, it's going to show you a move that's moving up. Its only problem is it can only show it to you after it has moved up, because before it's moved up, there was no move to show. So, but we kind of get into this magical thinking of like, I want this thing to go up. Of course you do, and so does everybody else. So what we do is, since that can't be done, and we've all wanted it to happen, what we have to come up with is ideas and a way to test those ideas. But again, I thought about that move, right? The huge run-up, and we were looking at that GIS from before. Look at that huge move today. And I said, well, one of the reasons why people don't like buying new highs is, primarily, of course, the fear of, well, surely when I buy it and I know my luck, this is the top. I mean, this is like, your brain is talking to you, and everyone says the same thing. Oh, the market doesn't know how good of a bad trader I am. Watch this. Boom, the top. And by the way, you can say that and just be perfectly right, too. Either way, it's funny and it happens, but let's start with the fear part of it. So you have this fear about buying the top because it's moved up a lot. So I said to myself, let's create a strategy where the stocks are basing, okay? So in other words, instead of these giant moves, let's find things that are kind of like ranging, Here's another example. All of them, in theory, should be very, very similar, where the last like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so days are going to be pretty tight, okay? Here's another one. Here's another one. And again, same exact thing. Well, the idea is that, okay, well, that looks good, Mr. Dan, but the move hasn't happened. I want to see it right before it happens. Okay, I say to myself, well, what you're asking for is a little bit of transformation. So now, drum roll, what I'm going to show you is what you can do with an alert window, with a top list window, and how to transform it into an alert window. So this is a window that I designed. It's called a top list. And by the way, for every subscriber who wants this window, as always, I will, and everybody else, you can get this by asking us, and we will send you all of these setups that you see here that are my setups, and we share them with all subscribers. So this free basing window is stocks that are either up or down, some, but are in, again, a relatively tight range. Okay? So how did I do it? So you right-click and you go to Configure. So the configuration screen comes up, And you can see that I have various filters, and there's not that many of them. So what I want to do is walk you through them so you can see my thought process. So the way you open this tab up is this is the Windows specific filters tab. Notice there's no averts. There's just filters, exchanges, symbol lists, and columns. So I'm going to hide the unused, and let's go through the filters. So the first filter is earnings per share, and I have a 0.0001 and a negative 0.0001. Now you can say to yourself, Mr. Merkin, what have you been smoking? And I would tell you some very oh, I'm sorry. No. So this is a trick. Okay. So when I have this earnings per share filter, and it's done this way where I have a small positive and a very small negative as well. What I'm doing is I'm saying to my computer, I only want to see things that either are making some money or are losing some money. In other words, this is a way to avoid ETFs. Okay, so if you have an earnings per share filter, that is a way that you can use it to have stocks that are actually in the stocks business versus earnings per versus EPS. I mean versus ETFs. So then for price, I just put a maximum price of $50 because I want to just show you stocks that you can relate to. It's just easier to relate stocks that more people can buy. So then the next filter, position in year range, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to show you this when you type in search into position. Okay, we have position of open, position in 5-minute range, 15, 30, 60, today, yesterday, 5-day, 10-day, 20-day, year. Position in the lifetime, in Bollinger Bands, on different time scales, and of course consolidation. So what that means is this is a very important thing for everybody to understand. Our concept of position is how you visually describe where you want the stocks to be, and this is the beauty of trade ideas. So when I say position in year range, minimum 35 and maximum of 85, what I've done here is I've eliminated stocks that are like basically on yearly lows. So the stock has to be at least 35% off of the low, which is 0. Okay, but I don't want stocks that are hitting highs. Okay, because I want to be in them when they hit new highs. Okay, so the way that I avoid that is I say I'm excluding the top 15%. So I have a minimum range of 35 and a maximum range of 85. Then, because again we have a filter called consolidation, which again you don't need to like know all the details about it. It's an algorithm that looks for stocks that are consolidating in a fancy way, and we're saying the consolidation date set it to minimum of 5. So I want to see at least 5 days that have been consolidating in what you call statistically speaking. Okay, and that's it. So again, look, earnings per share, not even related, just so it's all stocks, get rid of ETFs, a maximum price, which anybody, fifth grader would easily understand. And then position in range. Again, just visualize that, this is like the beginning of the number line at 0, and this goes to 100, and you're saying, well, where 0 is the low, 100 is the high. And you can put it anywhere you want. I can say, okay, well, maybe I want it just a little bit higher, visually speaking. So I'm going to modify this window. Hit OK. I say 45 because that makes me know I changed it. And now it's just a little different. Okay, still some of the same names, but these are at least in the 45th percentile for the year. And you can always go Control and modify. Okay. So again, just bigger picture. They're not going to be on highs, but they're not going to be on lows. Just off. So that's how you do it. And now that I showed you how I set that up, and notice again, it's color coded. You get both winners and losers in the same window for today, at least. That's a really nice advantage of trade ideas, where one window contains both sets of information. So then I have this feature. So this is, again, for the people that are subscribers, this is the power move, right? I'm going to show it to you. So you right-click, and you go to Configure. Okay, you just check, make sure you got everything there. Then you right-click again, and you select Collaborate. Okay, so Collaborate is a great link. And it's, again, it's very similar to our link for going to the cloud, or saving it to the cloud. But the difference is what Collaborate allows you to do is this trick that I'm about to show you. So I can copy, I say copy all, so it copies that string. And then I select a new alert window. And that's opening up in my other screen. And paste it in to get a system signal. Okay? So in other words, when you can collaborate, right-click collaborate, I'm just doing it again, copy all. Then you paste it into a window, and there you have it. Rebasing 45. That's the power move, okay? Because now what you've gone from is just this, where you see a list, to signals. So let's talk about this, okay? And let's talk about it in terms of what happened to these today, okay? And just so you can see it, how did it play out? Because also, this is important in the sense that this is not an AI-powered window. So I mean, I didn't even get into that part of it yet. I'm going to save that for the very last part. But this is simply just getting power out of trade ideas the way you should. You know, getting an idea from just a list and then transforming it to a window. So I'd done this prior to, just so you guys know, I'd done this one, you know, instead of doing everything right as I'm doing the demo, to make sure that I can convey my points more clearly, I wanted to, I have this window pre-done, and again, of course, everybody here can have it. But my point is that in order to do that, I had to, in the alert window, I had to change basically I had to set an alert window filter, an alert that I wanted to watch. So I had these filters in there when I collaborated it, but then I said the alert. So I said basically everything in that kind of a list, I only want to see it if it's making either a 5-day high up to 2% or crossed above the 200-day moving average. So that's how I did it, okay? So once I had all the filters from the top list already preset in the alert window, I just selected the alerts. And it was very simple. So this is what it looked like, and I'm going to show you what it picked up today and how it picked it up. So what's kind of cool about this too is that you're also learning how people use the play-by-play. So, you know, when you make a window, you design it and you can kind of see, well, how did this thing really, you know, how did it act in real time? So today you can see like this specific window. So 4 minutes and 44 seconds into the open, TLOG appeared, okay, at $3.15. So let's go into today real quick. We're gonna, well, that was like right over here. So right over here it appeared, and by the way, I mean, every single signal you would have had would have said it's overbought, but that never prevented it from running all the way to 372. Okay? Before, you know, in this 10-minute span, it went from 370 to 340. So, I mean, that's a lot of volatility and a lot of movement. So here it is. It's, I mean, you can see it kind of run in real time. And, you know, and it's all out of this consolidation move. So remember what we were talking about before, where we said, well, how do we transform from just, you know, a list to, well, now the move's got to happen. And by the way, I mean, this thing was crazy to trade. I'm not saying that would happen. I was just actually just as surprised to see this as you, but it kind of shows you the kind of interesting things you can see, you know. So it's just continuing to climb, and you can see it just doing its thing the whole time. Okay. So basically, for 1 minute, the first 20 minutes, it was all TLOG, and you would have been like, how did I miss that move? Then GSOL came across. Okay. And that's another one where, you know, there's a lot of action in the morning and pull back. SDT, Sandridge, big move up here. I mean, this one looks like it's lightly trading, but the idea is, again, you can kind of get the picture. This one would have been fantastic. You know, nice one right there. That you get an idea that just starts as a list where you see the consolidation, and then you take the same filters, put it into an alert window, add the alerts you want to see, and you create the alert. Okay? And you create the strategy. So now that we've created the strategy, of course, the next question is, well, how do we know if it works or not? Okay? And this is the primary crux of trade ideas. This is our AI engine, our back testing. I would call for sure say this is the feature that's the most used and the one that has the most value to you as a active investor. So we have these signals coming out of consolidation, but we're all we have is visual information in terms of what's happening. Some of them look like they could be good, and some of them look like they could be bad. So the odds maker allows me to hypothesize trading these stocks or when those signals took place. So what makes trade ideas backtesting completely unique to trade ideas is that it's event-based. So it goes, instead of looking at a stock and writing a script about, well, here's how I would trade this stock over the course of 10 years and this is how great I did. What we do is we test events that happen in real time and see how do those events stack up against the entire market of those events. So of all stocks where that event has taken place, what happens in the future? Okay, this is what sets us apart from everybody else and what gives us us and our users the biggest competitive advantage. So in this particular case, what I'm able to do is I can tell our backtesting software to say, okay, because I'm a human and I typically don't trade the first 5 minutes, or let's call it even 15 minutes, let things kind of settle down. Okay, and most likely I'm on the West Coast, so you're seeing West Coast time frame, and most likely I'm not going to initiate new trades in the last 2 hours. I want to manage the ones I have and not focus on initiation, because just from experience I know that there's less statistical probability in the last hour. So then I can ask my software, well, how long do I want to hold it for? This is an interesting question, and people say, well, how do you make decisions based on that? And we say, look, it's very simple. You have to have some kind of hypotheticals. Okay, if you're intraday trading, at some point you're going to get out, and you're not going to get out at the high because nobody knows what the high will be. So we kind of ballpark it again from past experience. Well, how long would I stay in a trade? Let's say that wasn't doing great, and we've kind of talked about it, and I mean over years of talking with other active investors, we said, well, you know, it's good for them to let them figure it out on their own, number one, but we've kind of set up some high-level guidelines. 45 is a good testing concept for any kind of intraday move. Well, does it stand the 45-minute test of time? Let's take a look. So here, you can see it's counting, and the software is going through the database, okay, and it's traded 40 times, here's 60. Remember that this is that specific strategy that we talked about in terms of the move out of consolidation. Okay, so we're not, I mean, again, without any kind of AI assistance, I'm not certainly expecting right off the bat to have some sort of an advantage. But what this does kind of allow you to do is to see, well, you know, how to just, you know, if you're a golfer, you sort of want to know, well, which way is the wind blowing, you know, before you even kind of figure out what you're going to do. You know, is it left to right, right to left, in your face, or is it, in your back? So as I'm watching this system go, you can kind of see that, okay, well, it's 82% done. We're probably going to be just a little over 400 trades out of the sample. And the 400 trades or so right now are looking like, see, if the profit factor is 1, that means that the winners and the losers are basically the same. So that means randomly, because this is, part of what everybody has to understand. If you want to beat the market, you have to understand that there is quite a bit of uncertainty. So you have to be able to glean some sort of statistical advantage in an otherwise very efficient market, because what you're seeing here is, if you were just going by this visually and had no other way to filter this data, which is, again, how 99% of the people who do not use trade ideas do it, you are basically flipping a coin at best. Okay? So here, it's actually worse. So you got only 36% of the trades out of the 300 that happened from May and April. I think maybe, no, yeah, from April, May, and June. So since we had this concept and going over the last quarter, intraday trading it for 45 minutes just seems like a complete losing battle. So what you can do is say, okay, well, without trying to fix this problem, well, maybe I trade it to the close, right here, or let's say 45 minutes to give myself ability to get out. Okay, you can choose to use a stop or not. You can just see, okay, if I just held it without any stops so that I don't, just the pure numbers of it, and run it that way. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Same, again, kind of concept, but I'm just holding a little bit longer. So here it looks like, at least off the bat, that holding it a little bit longer gave these stocks at least a little bit more of a chance to do something in your general direction, although the win rate is horrendous. So we'll see. But again, the thing that I want you to be able to see is that I am testing concepts right now without any kind of, again, math or calculus or spreadsheet. I'm just saying, hey, computer, you gave me the answer for 45 minutes. Well, what about the whole day? So it's going back in time, and it's retrading every one of the alerts that took place as if it had never, seen any of this. And as soon as it's done, and again, you can kind of see, like, we have some of the fastest computers that you can buy, without trying to make your own. And there's a massive server facility in San Diego that's geared just to crunch this data. And I want you to kind of appreciate the amount of data that we're crunching. This is otherwise known as stuff you can't ever do on TradeStation. Okay? Because, our computers are going back and they're trying to work every single combination of our filters, through this process and not only crunch the numbers, but then also in the background, if we want, they can help us with it. So let's see what happens. Okay, so this is it's kind of interesting. What's interesting about it is that the winners were way better than the losers. It makes me feel like something. Oh, it's because I had a wiggle stop loss. I was wondering what that was. Okay, so I used a protective stop loss, so now I'm going to redo that real quick. But the point I was making is that with what we're trying to do here, we want you to have an advantage when you make a speculative investment, and this is what that is. And the advantage you have here is that you can test out almost any hypothesis that you have, whether it's buying momentum or buying out of consolidation, which is what we're doing here, and see what the market really is doing with that situation. So what I'm going to do now is, while that's filling out, I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to show you just, again, another from-scratch concept that you can test with trade ideas in a way that you really probably, again, can't test anywhere else. And this is for both the subscribers and for the new users, because I want you to understand that when you the key to a good strategy is also a little bit of keeping it simple. So you just need to have a concept of a base. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from scratch. That's the other thing you can do in any window. You can start it from scratch and kind of build your own window. So let's do this. So one of the most popular alerts is the opening range. And by the way, notice, I mean, we have opening ranges for the 1 minute, 2 minute, 5, 10, you know. So I personally like the 60-minute because I feel like the longer the time frame for the range, the more statistically significant the range becomes. So I take the 60 minutes, and by the way, hold on, I'm going to hit OK. And the odds maker finished, and this is what it came with. 11-7. So this strategy by itself, without any AI, is not anything that you would want to trade discretionarily. But again, remember, we're not about that. We're about using statistics to gain an edge. So any one of these strategies that you actually want converted into an odds maker based strategy, just let me know, an email to Trade Ideas. Remember, it's called free basing, and I use that name because we're coming out of a base, and the lesson is free. But to our actual subscribers, you let me know, and I will create a free basing strategy for you. If you have odds maker, that's part of the advantage of coming to these webinars, is that we create strategies and we share them, and again, we put the statistics behind it. So, okay, so here we have the opening range. Okay, so I'm going to go to configure this window and just show you high level. Remember what I did before. I want to see stocks, not ETFs, so I'm doing it from scratch. Negative. Okay, I'm going to start with $1 and a maximum of $50. Okay, and one of my favorite filters that I use, and this filter is a concept that I think gets overlooked a lot because people look at averages, but I like one that's called volume today. Okay, and the reason why I really like this is because sometimes there are people that are so concerned about having some sort of steady rate of volume that they forget that when news hits, you know, a stock that maybe trades 50,000 shares a day on average can all of a sudden trade, you know, 300,000 or a million or 2 million. Okay, so instead of doing averages, I use the volume today, and on the volume today, I put something simple like 50,000. So in other words, I'm not going to see anything until at least 50,000 shares have traded. That's simple. No averages, nothing at all. Okay. So we did the price, earnings per share, and volume. Okay. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to call this the opening range QA. I'm going to hit OK. So now this window, it usually reports the last thing that has happened, so CIK. I can right click and go to history and go to today and just kind of see especially what was going on towards more in the morning and how did that, you know, take shape. Here you can click, see everything that took place, you know, the time it happened. You can see here in this case, you can see the alert, you know, it alerted you here and it ran all the way up to here. Again, notice again our signals, depending on what signals you use, they show up in the charts. And again, because of the synchronization, see, like when you're right here and you can say to yourself, okay, so you would have gotten there at 36.81. It would have been maybe tough, but it was only 10 cents. Pullback, and then you can see, look at on the daily how you just sit there and you could have ridden it, you know, again to flat, but then, you know, at least another 20 cents higher, possibly. So this is what the strategy looks like. But this is a beautiful example of it working, right? But how do we know if it works? So this goes back to, you go to real time, you run the odds maker, and you say, well, let me see what happens, okay? So again, I have some base rules, and this is for subscribers, but also for people who just aren't traders full time. We understand at Trade Ideas that your schedule is not always, congruent with market hours. So you can design systems that trade on your time. But in this specific case, I just say to, a normal person that isn't waking up right at the open, but might be up at 6:45, and again, not taking any trades after 10 a.m., managing what I have. So in terms of my exit time, what I'm going to do is I prefer to stay in it pretty much all day, because if I'm staying in it all day, I think I have a bigger chance to get a bigger move. And I'm going to remove all the stop losses, because again, in this case, I just want to see what's the actual pluses and the minuses before I put any risk parameters in there. Okay, so I'm going to hit simulate buy. And here it goes. So in this case, there's more trades, obviously, that are taking place. And I didn't even, I'm trying to recall my setup and my initial share setup, but we'll see when it finishes. But here again, notice 48% profit factor of 1.17. I mean, people often, until they realize how this stuff works, people often ask us, like, Dan, and no matter what strategy I use, if I'm just putting crap down and you guys haven't helped me, or I didn't spend their time optimizing, everything is like about the same. And we say, congratulations, you've just figured out what all the people who talk about random walk on Wall Street are telling you. What they're saying is that if you're throwing darts at it, and when you're looking at a chart, that's what they're assuming you're doing, because you don't really have any other information that you can use, your odds are going to be kind of like this. Okay, so here, think about this also, 6,300 trades in the sample size. So we are testing to see like the feel, to gain an understanding of what's going on. We've tested 6,300 events. That would be like writing 6,300 different scripts in TradeStation. Okay, and the first thing obviously we see is that the winners are just 3 cents bigger than the losers. But guess what, guys? You're losing 2 cents in, 2 cents out. And it's probably going to be more. So this is the other thing about what makes Trade Ideas so powerful, right? Is you handicap yourself. Okay, so here I put in 4 cents. Okay, and what it's showing you is that no matter what you think about this, you're also just you're basically getting eaten alive on the spread, because you're only making 3 cents, but you're losing 8 cents just on the in and the out for a net 5 cent loss. This is the stuff that you just don't see at brokerage firms, okay? Because they kind of want to not have you think about what happens when you add commissions and slippage. But a funny thing takes place when you work with the odds maker, and what it is that you find out that the commissions actually aren't that big of a deal. If you have a Trade Ideas design strategy that works the right way, commissions aren't the factor, and neither is slippage. It's just really your access to capital to execute. So the way our AI works, and I'm kind of today, instead of giving you a finished product, I just kind of want to show you what's happening behind the scenes. So there's a tab here called optimization. Okay, so the optimization tab lets people kind of quickly see, well, could I do something to quickly improve what I'm doing here, right? So obviously, the first thing you would notice, of course, is in the lower price stocks from $0 to $5, you're just not making any money. part of it, though, probably has to do is because you're trading the same share size. So maybe in this case, you're saying, okay, how about I change it to dollars? What would happen? It doesn't really help. But at the very least, when you go to the optimization, you can still see, well, what's going on? Okay, so this tells you from the beginning, one of the first things I can do, so I'm going to close this up real quick, is I can go to the configuration window. And again, this is what our AI would do as well. Now we just put a maximum price of $5, okay, and redo this and run the odds maker again. In theory, so the funny thing is people do this and they also then tell us, well, you know, my odds didn't improve as much as I thought. Well, that's partly because we do a lot of internal random sampling. So the way our database grabs stocks, it grabs them from different databases that contain different symbols, split up not by any kind of like sectors, but by various categories, so that if one server goes down, another server takes over. So that way you don't have A's on one server, B's on the other. You crash the A's and you only see the B's. But here again, we improved our odds to 48% just by, you know, changing the stock price. So again, once we go to the optimization level, we glean more information. Okay, so we're saying, well, maybe it should actually be going to 10. It becomes more visible as you see these, you know, these numbers shift. So I'm just showing you how, you know, I can go from here. Now again, just modify it one more time and change that to 10. And this is something that Trade Ideas oddsmaker users do all the time manually. They tinker with the strategies just to see, you know, how much can something be pushed without you know, really having to summons full automated strategy generation. This is what, if you know, if people are designing strategies completely by themselves, this is what they do at home. They go through the optimization tabs and they kind of look through the information to see where and how they can improve. And I'm just doing the very, very simple things, you know. Again, there's also time of day, right? So look, in these trades, you can see that, you know, the best time of day was from like basically 7:30, 7:39. You know, there's a decent time over here too, 8:20 to 8:29. But you can then really shift gears a little bit and change the whole idea of the strategy. You can say, well, maybe the algorithms or the way orders get placed for this kind of strategy that I'm trying to implement, maybe that's just better done at a different time of day. This is, again, something that you don't get in other software products. So here, it's kind of like your coach. Now I'm going to say, change that to 8. And then we rerun it again. And as you continue to rerun this information, your win rate will improve. Again, for this demo, I'm just kind of ad hocing it, but you go through the filters and you see which ones really have an effect, and you remove it. I will try it as a short if you want, just to show. Most of the time, again, stock strategies don't invert that way. Like if you have something that's winning, you invert it, it's not going to do the same thing on the losing side, because the trades don't work out that way. And again, we do so much internal randomization of the database. So this is so we don't curve fit and that we don't fool ourselves when we provide oddsmaker-enabled strategies. Okay. So again, so this is what you get by hand, and that's when you come to us and you say, Dan, I want the AI, and that's what we do. So part of what I'm going to do so we're basically I'm going to wrap this up with answering your question and answers myself, but also I'm going to be saying that, okay, so you will get, for this particular webinar, you will of course get all of the links, and you can get for people who have the odds maker, there are two strategies that I'm going to create. I'm going to optimize this opening range to make it work on the full day, intraday time frame, and then I'm going to optimize the freebasing strategy for a swing trade. So that's what you guys will get, those of you who are subscribers. And so now, before we kind of finish up, let's quickly, I'm going to answer questions. Let's see them. Ben, I think I understand your question, but we do all of that internally, and I'm not sure what you mean to protect against data mining. We are mining data. We're mining our own data, and we have routines in place in there to prevent as much curve fitting as possible. I mean, ultimately, to gain some statistics, you do have to, at the end of the day, have a curve that works. Okay, are there any other questions? I want to make sure the question and answer section is working. Okay. I can see you, Natty. So, Donald, there isn't an auto trader for TDA. I mean, well, there is one, but it's for an older version. They haven't come to us with the need to upgrade. If they do, we will. It's really in their hands. Natty, what was the question? Okay, so Judy, great question. How quickly do you get news? What's the news? Well, here's the beauty. For sure, we get news faster than the news agencies, and here's how it happens. So file, new alert window. So there's a couple of different ways if I go from scratch where I can see the news. First of all, it's already going to be reflected in the surge channel, okay? Because it's there to pick up things that are just popping. But we have, if you go to alert, if you go to search and you type in volume, okay? So right away we have these different types of alerts. So 1 minute volume spike is basically there to catch something that if you set it to 10, you're basically specifically looking for the news. So I'm going to say news me, and I'm going to then show you another trick, by the way. So count. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to say add filter. So count is how many times has this happened, you know, over the course of today. So this volume spike alert, well, I don't want to see it if it's happened more than, let's say, 30 times, because after the 30th, I already know it's happening. Okay, so I want to kind of pick it up right as it's happening. So I already set it. Called the news me. These are the alerts. I'm going to look at all stocks, and let's see what's happening. So I'll go to history, and here's kind of, I mean, all of this was happening even after the close, including Apple. So let's go to the open. So right click, history and time frames. And I'm going to say, so here's how you do it. So I'm going to say, right now is 8 a.m. and let's call this 6 a.m. So this is basically going to show me from the just before the open, or how should I say? I'll say 6:30. From just before the open to 8 a.m. Okay, so here's what was going on, and let's go all the way to the bottom. And again, I mean, you'll see that this happens a lot. So yeah, this land, TSYS, and again, these are the 5-minute charts. Whatever was happening on these stocks, these volume that means this is when the first news, people taking advantage of news first are doing it in the stock market or the options market. So this alert picks it up. But it's more complicated than that. So one good way to do is that you can link it to, a Yahoo News window, or you can link it to a StockTwits or Twitter window and quickly pick up the news. And you can do that under linking. Oops, I'm sorry. Tools, and under external linking, you can set all of that up. Okay, let me see. CN, thank you very much. We appreciate that. So Natty, yes, you can. And here's kind of like how you do it. So I'm going to go to search. I'm going to say volume. So we have a lot of ways that you can slice up the volume. Okay. So how we do it is in volume as a percentage of the average. Okay, because that again makes a lot more sense, because then there's a baseline to compare it to. So you can say, show me a stock. So I'm going to just give you an example of something. I can say add filters. So show me one that's 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. Okay. Okay, so this is the percentage, right? So percentage of the volume. So if you want the 200,000 shares, okay, to happen, you can kind of back into it. Number one, I'm pretty sure there's a way we can do it with a custom formula. One. The other way that you can do it is you can kind of say, okay, let's see here, hold on, shares is exactly what I was using before, volume today. So if you say volume today, which is right here, okay, and if it's had at least, let's say, let's call it 200,000, okay, so what you're going to see, and I'm going to put some columns in here. So volume, so this is the other way, which is kind of good for this lesson, is that you can take whatever it is that you have in here and you can show it as a column. Okay, so now you can kind of see history, today, and let it load. And here, what was going on, and also, I'm going to go to volume today so you can see that as well. So everything that we have as a filter is something that can be used, as a column, so that you can really see all the detailed information. So here, this is kind of what it looked like. And you can see, by the way, that the initial opening ones. I mean, obviously in this case, the total volume is probably too low, but you can back into it, and that's kind of what I was trying to say. You can say if that didn't meet your need, you could always go and say, okay, how about volume average 5-day, and then you can add, how about 600,000. Now it'll be a different set, and most likely this is going to be much more towards what you were going for. So that's kind of how it's done. Yes, we are going to add IPO date. So we're going to be changing our calendar from the service that we use right now, integrated to Benzinga. We're going to use some of their data. So that's what we're going to do, and we will have an IPO filter as part of it. So for sure. Okay, are there any other questions? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give it up to Scott, but just a couple of high-level things for me. Number one, we love that you guys come here and that you participate. We want to do the best to get you the most value out of this, and we think, again, the more eyes that are on it and utilizing our technology, the better it is. We have an incredible support apparatus. Barry Anderson, who's in all of these Q&A webinars, leads our free chat service, where you have the most active trade ideas clients. They're sharing ideas, sharing concepts, strategies, and getting feedback. And everybody is primarily trading. So it's not like I don't even go there all the time, even though I do try to promote and share stuff. I don't sit there, spewing sales things and whatever. I'm there also to trade myself. So everybody gets that kind of hand-holding. But for all new subscribers, we have a huge library of video lessons, and plus everybody gets a one-on-one training session with either Jamie Hodge or our education staff. So it just sets you up correctly away. That's why we have customers, who've been with us for over, 10 years, believe it or not. Scott's going to give you the final version of the promos, and it's an incredible time to take advantage because, again, you're seeing it. We are about to raise prices, and this is the time to start because you've had this early advantage because you're here. You can lock in rates that are not going to be available much longer. So, Scott, you want to take it away? Want me to bring up the presentation?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and pull up slide 9 there. So something we'd like to do to thank everyone for attending our webinar is provide a product code so that you can save money, whether you're a new subscriber or a current subscriber. Using the code QAWeb71, all caps, will get you 30% off of your first installment on the monthly, yearly, or Advantage player. So your first month would be $52.50 rather than $75. Or your first year, $439.60 for the first year rather than $628. The Advantage player, it brings the first month down to $165.20, and the odds maker from $1,100, it takes 40% off of that to make it $660. And again, that's lifetime access. So if you are with us for a couple of months and then take some time off and come back, you still have the odds maker. But we'd encourage you to keep your subscription active so that you don't have to come back at a higher rate. Something that we also make available for everyone who's attending is a combination package. If you go to slide 10 there, you can go to this web address we have on there. It's a bit.ly link, so it's a short code. What it does is it gets you the full year of trade ideas and the lifetime odds maker license. We throw in a strategy too for you for only $8.99 total, so that's way over half off. It basically comes out to under $3 a day for that year. It's a fantastic value. This is something that existing subscribers can upgrade into. If you already have a subscription, you can either email us at info@tradeideas to do the upgrade, or just go ahead and do the upgrade and then email us and let us know so that we can turn off your previous subscription before you get billed again. Oh, I almost forgot. If you guys look in your GoToWebinar panel, you should see a handout section. There's a PDF in there that you can download, and that has the links that you're seeing as well as the product code. Just remember to use that product code before the end of business on Friday. That product code will expire. And as we mentioned earlier in the webinar, if you're going to get into trade ideas at these rates, now's the time. These rates are going to go up when we launch the charting. If you're a current subscriber, or if you get in before we increase the pricing, your pricing will not increase as long as you retain your subscription. It's kind of that simple. We grandfather everyone in. I want to thank everyone for attending. We do these every week. I hope you come to the next one. Keep an eye out for our other webinars as well.
Scott, do we have handouts for people on this
Yeah,
one?
people can check their handouts. The handouts have the product code and the link to the $8.99 combo, our best package. And if you have any questions, go ahead and email us, info@tradeideas.com. Follow us on Facebook, Trade Ideas Pro. Dan is @TradeIdeas1 on Twitter. We also have @TradeIdeas on Twitter. The easiest way to get answers, though, is just email info@tradeideas.com. That automatically creates a support ticket inside our help desk software, and then it gets routed to the appropriate Trade Ideas staff to answer your question. So thanks, everyone. Cheers.